Getting into gaming as a pastime has only grown easier over the years. Simply by owning a phone, you'll be able to access countless free titles that'll keep you engaged for hours at a time. On computers and consoles, you'll find no shortage of popular titles like Fortnite and Marvel Rivals, waiting to be accessed for no additional charge. With new titles getting announced all the time, along with sales on other titles happening constantly, it almost feels like an inevitability for someone to wind up dabbling in gaming at some point in their lives. It honestly makes me curious about how it is growing up as a kid getting into gaming nowadays. Back when I was a kid, the internet was a place I went to when I wanted to play Flash games on Cartoon Network's website. If I wanted to learn about games coming out, I'd either hear about it from friends or advertisements on TV. Then I'd have to wait until my birthday or Christmas rolled around so I could finally own those games that I've probably already played a ton of at a friend's house. Sometimes your parents will have already bought a gaming console before you were born, which meant you had a small library of games to start out with. Being too young to be aware of anything else, you don't really question if there are other games besides the ones you already have at home. To you, the games you have at this point are the definition of the medium, and everything you would discover in the years to come will either be pleasant surprises or terrifying oddities. I was spawned into this world in the now distant year of 1995. As I entered my toddler years, I soon found myself sitting before the latest console at the time, if the time was 1990. Of course, I'm referring to the Super Nintendo. The mysterious gray rectangle that sat before me was joined by a number of smaller gray rectangles that were referred to as video game cartridges. As someone who is just getting a grip on the concept of the English language, I could not pick what games would be coming with this device, so it was up to my parents to decide what games would fit best for their growing boy. Of course, there would be the game that came with every SNES, which was Super Mario World. I've talked enough about this game in my last video, but the short version is that this is the greatest game I've ever played. Talk about peaking early. I was also fortunate enough to have gotten Super Mario All-Stars, which allowed me to play the rest of Mario's 2D adventures up to Super Mario World. I have many good memories of playing this one with my dad, who taught me how to access the warp zone, which would lead to both of us consistently getting sacked by World 8 because of course jumping to the final world from World 1 is going to be a massive difficulty spike. Along with these came a handful of sports games. Tecmo Super Bowl was definitely a football game that I had growing up. My biggest memories with this one was not knowing how to play it and getting scared when I saw a player getting taken off the field by paramedics. The other sports game I had was NCAA basketball, which tasked the player with throwing the ball immediately into the basket if you had it, no matter where you were on the court. If you didn't have the ball, you must run into the endless blue void surrounding the court. Those were the rules, right? I mean, that's how I played when I was a kid, so that must be it. Forget I asked. Aside from those, there were a handful of other miscellaneous titles I got to enjoy. There was Top Gear, a racing game that I have many fond memories of playing with my sister, and that soundtrack is super good. There was also Wheel of Fortune, another family favorite, even if all I wanted to do as a kid was spin the wheel. Pac-Man 2: The New Adventures is also a game I either fortunately or unfortunately had growing up, depending on your worldview. Honestly, this one's so weird that I might have to make a video on it someday. This leaves one more game I had growing up with my Super Nintendo, and it's one that kinda lives rent-free in my head all these years later. This is Tiny Toon Adventures: Buster Bus Loose. Tiny Toon Adventures was a cartoon series that ran from 1990 and 1992, which revolved around a group of kid characters attending Acme University, where they would be taught by classic Looney Tunes characters in the arts of comedy. The kid characters, for the most part, would have designs and names that connect them to the teaching staff of the university. You have Buster and Babs Bunny, no relation, being our Bugs equivalent, Plucky Duck being our Daffy Duck 1, Hampton J. Pig for Porky, the list goes on. Needless to say, it was a popular show during its time on the air, which led to the creation of some video games to get kids eager to get their parents to spend more money on them. Our focus today, Tiny Toon Adventures Buster Bust Loose, is a 2D platformer released in the US in February of 1993, shortly after the show's final season. Since I was only able to conceptualize the existence of video games a few years after my birth, that basically meant that by the time this game landed in my hands, I had completely missed the train on the Tiny Toons hype. I have never watched the show, nor have I ever seen it mentioned on any of the cartoon channels I frequented, which were Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and Disney Channel. As far as kid me was aware, this was just another video game separate from any other form of media. This didn't take away from my experience with the game at all. Maybe it's because I played so much as a kid, but even now I don't really feel like I lost anything due to not watching the show. There are some characters and sayings that you probably get a kick out of seeing here if you watch the show, but you're not losing too much by not knowing about them before playing. So for those of you that were worried you had to sit down and watch the entirety of a cartoon from the 90s to enjoy this title, you can worry no more. Before we dive straight into the game, I want to take you through the experience of taking a new game home back in the day, sitting in the back seat of the car, looking at the back of the box, and, of course, reading through that instruction manual and looking at all the pretty pictures inside. Let's start with the box art. It's something, alright. You've got the show logo, you've got Buster Bust Loose taking up a strong amount of box real estate. Then, of course, you have the focus of our game, Buster, looking raring to bust loose, I guess. He's got what seems to be swim trunks on, so I can only assume things are gonna get tropical based on this. A look to the side shows us some text that hypes up the experience. A game that's more fun than a rabbit ought to have? Tell me more. The back of the box builds on this exciting premise, giving us more details on what we can expect with our adventure with Buster as he busts loose. It's just like a cartoon, except you're the main character. Holy cow! I get to be in a cartoon? My childhood dreams will finally be realized. What else can you tell me, oh mysterious game box? But be warned. Uh-oh. Accept the role of Buster Bunny, and your tail will be on the line against Calamity Coyote, Elmira, Dizzy Devil, Dr. Gene Splicer, Montana Max, and, get this, even little baby Maggie? And gazillions of other 16-bit bullies craving a pot of Hassenfeder stew. Gulp. Man, being the main character of a cartoon is more dangerous than I thought. From here, the back of the box describes some of the things you'll be doing in this game, making a note that it won't be cake, Jake. You hear that, Jake? No cake. I know you're watching. Not only does the back of the box go on to describe each level in the game, but it also lists off the sub-games you'll be able to partake in, capping it off with claiming that this game is actually like 11 games in one. For any parent, reading this must have been exciting. I'm sure many thought they'd never have to buy another game for a kid again after seeing that on the box. Off to the side, we get a solid preview of what's to come in our journey through the game. You see a bunch of characters from the show, some football action, and even some haunted house shenanigans. No signs of anything tropical yet, but you can only get so much information out of the back of the box. For one bunny. Okay, let's open this box and take a peruse through that instruction manual. Let's see here. The first thing we're treated to is the manual congratulating us on acquiring the game while also reminding us to keep ice cream out of our Super Nintendo. Personally, I believe the Super Nintendo has earned a frosty treat, but we can agree to disagree. From here, we start getting more general information about how the game works. We even get a detailed chart showing how the game is altered based on the difficulty you select, which is pretty nice. You're also treated to some illustrations of the characters and items you'll see in the game. There's also like 3 pages dedicated to describing how Stage 4 works, which we'll get to later. We then get a plethora of screenshots showing off all the stages and bonus games we'll be experiencing in the journey. Wait a minute, hold on. None of these look tropical at all. Wait, why is Buster dressed like that on the box then? I thought he was gonna go to the beach or something, not space. Ugh. Well, we may be down a beach adventure, but at least the game sounds like it's going to be fun regardless of this. Following this, we get some support hotlines in case you get stuck or have issues with your cartridge. Sadly, it's not 1993, so these phone numbers don't work anymore. 70 cents per minute, Lord have mercy. To cap off our journey through the manual, we get told to go buy other games. I can confirm that Tiny 2 Adventures for the NES is a good time. Haven't tried the others though. Maybe I'll have to add them to my infinitely growing backlog so I can tackle them in another 7 years. Well, right as we reach the final page of the manual, we made it home. Time to dash inside, claim the living room TV for ourselves, and slam that cartridge into our ice cream free Super Nintendo. Channel 3, here we come. Man, this Konami logo and jingle are burned permanently into my brain. Short, simple, and effective. Seeing this animation meant you were about to play a good game, that's for sure. And here we are, the title screen of the game. After hitting start, we get a basic menu, including an options page. There isn't a whole lot to tweak here, just the difficulty level, the controls, and the sound mode. There's also a sound test that will let you listen to any song in the game, which was commonplace in games of this era. Okay, our options have been tweaked to our liking. It's finally time to start the game. Hitting start takes us to our first cutscene, featuring Buster and Babs Bunny, no relation. They introduce themselves and let you know that they're going on an adventure, starting at their school, Acme Luniversity. While talking about what's to come, Buster realizes he's late for class and rushes off, while Babs warns him about some escaped animals that got into the school. This of course implies that there are non-sentient animals in a world where there's a good chunk of animals that can speak and act like humans, which surely isn't jarring for anyone. I mean, look at them, they don't care. Therefore, neither will I. With that, we can now get into the gameplay proper. Buster has a simple moveset. He can walk, do a drop kick, and dash. The drop kick is your main attack, being able to quickly and effectively dispatch the enemies you'll face. The dash is more of a situational tool. Aside from speeding you up, it allows you to cover greater distances when jumping, slide into smaller gaps, and even climb up walls. You can also damage enemies by jumping or sliding into them during a dash. At first you may consider attempting to dash through everything from the get-go, however there are some factors stopping us. Firstly, you'll take damage if you dash straight into an enemy, bringing us to a stop. Second, you have a dash mirror at the top of the screen. You can only dash until your meter runs out. Once it's out, you'll need to wait for it to fill up in order to dash again. You don't have to wait for it to be full before dashing, thankfully. However, you won't cover nearly as much distance as you would on a full bar. Overall, Buster's moveset works pretty well. The dash is pretty reliable in the situations where it's needed, and can also help you find some secret goodies. The dropkick is also a pretty valuable ability, as it also has the added effect of extending your jump distance and time spent airborne. It's a simple moveset made right for what is a relatively simple game. Of course, what's a 90s 2D platformer without collectibles? Defeating enemies and exploring stages will reward the player with stars. These are basically your coin equivalent for this title. Collect 100 and you get an extra life. Simple as that. Aside from stars, you'll find countless other goodies hidden throughout each stage. If you slide under these stairs in the first stage, you'll find some carrot trophies. These come in 3 flavors: silver, gold, and crystal. Silver will restore 1 hit point, gold will restore all hit points, and crystal will add an extra hit point to your life meter. On the normal skill level, you start with 3 hit points on every stage, with crystal carrot trophies being hidden throughout levels to give you up to 5 hit points. Don't get too attached to this extra health though, as you lose these upgrades when going to new stages, requiring you to find new crystal carrot statues to build up your life meter for each stage. While this is an annoying stipulation, it does keep this game from becoming a cakewalk. Aside from these, you'll find Go-Go Dodo trophies. These have various effects depending on their type. Silver ones will immediately max out your dash meter, allowing you to race away immediately. Gold ones will turn you invincible for a short amount of time. Crystal ones destroy every enemy on screen. Needless to say, the gold and crystal ones are highly rare, while silver ones will often be placed in areas that require you to dash consistently and make progress. The last time you'll be fighting are these Buster Bunny dolls. These will often be hidden away or in hard to reach areas. They'll give you an extra life when collected, allowing you to keep going if you get your tail handed to you. Alright, let's focus on our first stage here, Big Trouble at Acme University. This stage is a simple one, mostly being a way to get the player familiarized with the controls and mechanics. You'll often be told when you should be dashing and jumping, giving you an idea of how to use Buster's moveset to traverse stages. You'll even face a mini-boss in the form of Arnold the Pitbull towards the end of the stage. At the end, we'll reach Hampton, who informs us that Dizzy Devil is rampaging through the kitchen. They then come up with a plan to feed Dizzy until he gets full and passes out. Time for our first boss fight. Despite the stage having you focus on using drop kicks and dashes, you don't need to use these for this fight at all. For the most part, you're just knocking food into Dizzy's mouth Mario Bros style until he tires out. There is a bit of danger when he starts to spin, but hiding between passageways renders his attacks futile. Overall, a very easy and enjoyable boss fight to start off our Tiny Toon adventure. Before we enter stage 2, we're treated to Wheels O Game. Between each stage in the game, we're shown this scene, where Buster and Babs present the player with a wheel that will determine what bonus game they'll be playing to earn some extra lives. There's 5 different games that the wheel can land on. We'll be going over these in order from least to most favorite. First, we've got Mystery Weight Challenge. For this one, you'll be going up against what the manual calls Acme's Weightatronic 5000, as you compare the weights of various characters. You'll select which characters will be on the scale for each round, with 5 rounds in total. For each round you win, which happens if your character weighs more, you'll earn an extra life. Win more rounds than the computer and you'll earn an extra life for that too. While I'm sure some could find enjoyment in trying to get an order of characters going that'll earn them the most lives, personally I find this bonus game to be very uninteresting. Usually I'll just close my eyes and mash left and right while hitting A just to get this over with faster, and even then I'll usually come out of this one with a few extra lives. Because of that, it feels like nothing I do in this minigame matters, which makes it an easy mark for worst minigame in my opinion. Following this, we have Hungry Boy Hampton. This is a puzzle game where you must move the tiles around to make a path for Hampton to walk down to collect apples, which will reward an extra life for each one picked up. The catch here is that Hampton moves very slowly. Because of this, it's not enough that you make a path that has all the apples on it, because chances are you're not gonna reach them all in time. To get the most lives, you'll need to move quickly to get as many apples directly in Hampton's path as possible. This, of course, is where the risk versus reward of this minigame emerges, as now you're focusing on the apples, the path, and Hampton's current location. It is very easy to lose track of at least one of these as you try to construct the perfect path for Hampton, leading to him tripping and failing the minigame often. While I appreciate the depth of this minigame in comparison to Mystery Weight Challenge, it isn't a favorite of mine. Maybe it's because I'm not puzzle-pilled enough, but this is one that I could never really jive with. Either I make a safe path that gets only a few apples and run out of time, or I try and make the super tight path and lose early on, earning nothing. I probably just need to practice more, so there's a non-zero chance this gets bumped up at some point later on in my life. Next up, we have Plucky Duck's Go-Go Bingo. This is a simple game of bingo where you push a button to call up a ball. Plucky will then show the character who's on the ball and those spaces will get marked on your card. You get an extra life for every line cleared. Also, the manual teases that you can get a 12 up if you clear every tile, but the chances of you actually doing that are super low. What earns this middle place in terms of favorability for me is the simple fact that I like bingo. I grew up playing a lot of bingo with family and friends either at home or at school. Bingo is something I have a happy attachment to. It makes me think about the good times. Also, you can easily earn a ton of extra lives if you get lucky with the lines, so that helps keep it at this middle tier for me. Furballs Championship Squash is our next bonus game. Here you'll take the role of Furballs. He plays squash, which you could have probably assumed based on the name of the game. Each time you hit the wall, a meter on the right side of the screen will fill up, and once you hit 15 shots against the wall in a row, you'll earn extra life. As you play, you'll see other characters moving past the wall, hitting them with the ball with various effects, like stopping the timer, slowing the ball down, and even giving you an extra life. This one ranks high for me due to how much is going on here. The game is simple but engaging, and the power-ups you get from other characters help to keep things more involved. Even when the meter gets reset after missing the ball, I'm eager to use the time left to try to earn an extra life or two. Lastly, we have Find Your Friends. In this game, you play as Babs as she navigates a maze, trying to find her friends who are all behind closed doors. Each one you find gets you an extra life. However, if Arnold, Elmira, or Dizzy catch you, it's game over. This one is easily my favorite because I like navigating the maze a lot. I play a lot of Pac-Man growing up, so maze games like these always find a way to draw me in. It does suck a little that the game ends if you get caught, which can happen pretty easily sometimes. But if you play well, you can come out of this with a lot of extra lives to make the rest of the game a lot easier. Now that the bonus game is over, it's time to start stage 2, the Western movie. Our opening cinematic begins with Buster and Plucky talking about the dash mechanics, since it gets a good amount of use in this stage. When they begin to talk about the theme of this stage, they're interrupted by Montana Max, who's hyped about being the main star of the stage. After comments from Plucky and Buster about Max being up to something, we're transitioned into the stage. The stage is split into two parts. First, we'll be navigating an old western town, dodging tomatoes, playing jump rope, and dodging birds. Overall, this part isn't too challenging. A newcomer might get tripped up by the jump rope minigame at first as they learn the timing, but that doesn't take too long to get down. After entering a building and climbing to the top, we see Montana Max, who has stolen all the valuables out of the safe. He makes a leap out the window, and we make our move to chase him down. This leads to the second half of the stage, which takes place on a train. You'll be dealing with auto-scrolling as you proceed past the many obstacles lying in wait for Buster. Our first challenge out here will be dealing with these nets. If they catch you, you have a chance to dash through them. If you don't though, you die instantly. I have some memories as a kid calling this part the basketball hoop factory, since the nets kinda look like those when you tear through them. Thankfully, they're also pretty easy to jump over when you learn the time. Soon after this, you'll suddenly be told to dash, and from here, you'll be dashing for your life. There are two sections in this stage where you'll suddenly need to start dashing, and these are not forgiving. If you miss any of the Go-Go Dodo trophies or mistime a jump, you'll soon find yourself flying to the left side of the screen, more than likely losing a life in the process. This means redoing the first part of the train section, which is annoying to say the least. Thankfully, the rest of this stage isn't nearly as taxing. You have a mini-boss fight against Silas Wonder, who goes down pretty easily. There's some tricky platforming and some bird dodging to do after that. But this is still much easier than the dash sections from earlier. After Buster launches himself into space, we wind up coming down the locomotive, which is erupting into flames. You'll be dodging fire and steam as you break away parts to allow you to get into the engine. Navigating through here will not only get you an easy to grab extra life, but it'll also get you to the final part of the stage. You find Montana Max panicking as the train spirals out of control. Using quick wits, he and Buster hop onto a convenient railroad cart. After pumping enough to reach 88 miles per hour, you speed away from the train, leaving a trail of flames behind you. Oh hey, I get that reference. Jaws! Overall, Stage 2 makes for quite the difficulty spike compared to the laid-back nature of Stage 1. Auto-scrolling combined with tricky dash sections definitely makes this stage a force to be reckoned with. There are checkpoints to make this a bit more tolerable, but as a kid I had my fair share of game overs trying to overcome the challenges on display in this stage. I don't hate this stage as an adult, but I do wish the difficulty jump from Stage 1 wasn't as extreme as it is here. After dealing with Montana's antics, Buster decided to head home for a day, only to have his outside time interrupted by a sudden storm. In an effort to not get completely drenched, he heads for shelter and stumbles upon an old mansion. As he realizes the amount of tropes that are happening in this scenario, Babs appears to announce the name of the third stage, Spook Mansion. After how tough stage 2 was, you'd think this would be an even tougher stage to get through. However, it turns out this stage is much easier than that stage was. No auto-scrolling or strict dashing sections here. We've got some slow-paced platforming ahead with plenty of enemies to take down. You have these ghosts that come at you fast, but you also have a crystal Go-Go Dodo trophy to wipe them out with. You also have these two-headed dudes who take a few hits, and these weird enemies that kinda look like evil chocolate cakes that thankfully go down fast. You also have this vampire mini-boss that's only vulnerable when he isn't a bat, so we have a decent variety of spooky foes to dispatch here. In terms of level design, things are pretty tame. Your main gimmick is these seesaw-esque trampolines. These will launch you high into the air to cross gaps and reach new heights. Sometimes you'll be tasked with knocking a ball onto one end to get it to bounce you up, but it never becomes complicated. The second half of this stage has some unique visuals with the stained glass windows depicting other characters from the show, and it also has these massive hammers to contend with. You'll need to avoid getting crushed and use them to your advantage to reach the end of the stage. After dealing with more hammers and potentially getting stuck in level geometry, you meet up with Babs, who exclaims that she came here to play with her friend in the basement because she thought it was abandoned? Anyway, their playtime was interrupted when her friend was kidnapped by a mad scientist. The mad scientist in question is Dr. Gene Splicer from the show, but for some reason they just refer to him as a mad scientist here. Regardless, it's now up to Buster to save her friend. Welcome to the second major boss fight. This is also a fight that'll put up a good challenge. Melvin the monster will follow Buster around the arena, throwing giant light bulbs and bolts at him. The bolts are our main focus here, as drop-kicking these will send him right into the machine in the background. You'll be ducking and weaving through shots and around Melvin while flinging as many bolts into the machine as you can. After flinging enough bolts into it, the machine will explode, knocking out Gene Splicer and freeing Melvin. Overall, I like stage 3 a lot. I kinda wish it was between stages 1 and 2 due to how it feels a lot easier in stage 2. Even with the tough boss fight, I find this stage to be a much more relaxed experience in comparison. Hopefully stage 4 won't be another weird difficulty spike for no reason. Yo, check out this cool egg I found. Our next stage has us watching as Babs reports from Acme University Stadium as we close in on the end of a heated football game between the home team and some fierce rivals. The score is 14-10, and the final minutes of the final quarter, which means the home team is gonna have to score a touchdown or secure victory. Bookworm's also here, I guess. And with that, we begin stage 4, Luniversity Football. This stage is unlike any other in the game. Rather than going through a stage being a baddie, you're on the football field dodging rival team members as you make your way towards the end zone. This stage is a lot to take in, especially if you're experiencing it blind. Out of nowhere, the rules have changed and there's new mechanics to contend with. There's a reason this level alone has 3 pages dedicated to it in the instruction manual, and you're about to find out why. When you first start, Buster will catch a ball descending from the air as you begin your first push towards the end zone, which ends as soon as you're tackled by an opposing team member. After this happens, you need to assign your next play. Will you attempt to run with the ball, or try to catch a pass? Running the ball is the least involved action, as Buster will immediately pick up the ball from Plucky as he makes a mad dash for the end zone. This play sadly also has a high likelihood of being cut off short as the enemy team members appear on screen very quickly, more times than not too fast for you to dodge. Your other team members, including Hampton and Furball, will try to keep some opponents at bay, but even then you'll be lucky if you can dodge enough players to advance more than 3 yards. Passes have the highest risk, but also the highest reward. These plays begin with Plucky throwing the ball high into the air, with a meter appearing on screen to display the current location of the ball. An X on the ground indicates where the ball will land, with enemy team members gathering around this spot hoping to ambush ambush you if the ball lands in your hands. This play is all about learning the timing. Time it right and you'll catch the ball as you pass over the X, allowing you to travel way farther than you would for running play. Fail to catch the ball though, and it'll count as a down. Just like in regular football, 4 downs means you lose control of the ball, which means a lost life for you. Funnily enough, this also happens to real football players. That's why the camera cuts away from the football field when they're getting set up so you can send the body doubles in. Thankfully, traveling 10 yards resets the down counts, so you can afford to make more mistakes if you get a good amount of distance. Aside from the threat of too many downs, you also have a timer that's constantly ticking away. If time runs out, that's also a life lost. If you can master the timing of pass plays and get lucky with some runs with the ball, you'll be scoring that touchdown in no time, securing victory for the home team. If you're kidding me and constantly tried running the ball because you couldn't get the pass timing down though, you're gonna have a rough time. Yeah, overall stage 4, despite how short it can be, is absolutely going to be a wall for many newcomers to this game. The sudden genre and mechanic shift, along with how relentless the enemy team can be, makes this one of the harder stages in the game to clear when going in blind. I will say this though, the song that plays on this stage is easily my favorite in the game. The soundtrack to this game overall is great in my opinion, but this stage's theme has stuck with me the most over the years. I feel like if we lived in the universe where we got an HD 2D remake of this game and it got an orchestral soundtrack, there would be some flourishes to make this feel more like a grade school football game sound-wise, like having cheerleader chants mixed in with the music for example. Go, go, go! Fight, fight, yeah! Hey, are you okay? You look like you saw something terrifying just now. Well, whatever it was, you're gonna have to move past it, because we gotta talk about Stage 5. Stage 5 opens with Buster chatting with Calamity Coyote. Calamity asks Buster to do him a solid and find an important thing he hit in the sky. Buster agrees immediately because who wouldn't go search the skies for a random item that could be literally anywhere? With this, we begin Stage 5 proper, Buster's Skyjinx. Stage 5 is another dip in level difficulty for the most part. You'll spend a solid chunk of the stage doing simple platforming challenges like hopping on bubbles and crossing paths of balloons. The only time you'll encounter enemies is when you're on the blimp. This has the potential to be tricky due to how if you perform a dropkick too close to the edge of the blimp, there's a solid chance you'll fall, but it's easy enough to stay on until Concord Condor picks you up if you just keep to the middle. This is also another stage with no boss fight. Instead, you'll be ascending this pinball challenge that's only pinball and theming. You don't have traditional pinball physics, and any influence in movement from the one bumper here can be mitigated by performing a dropkick. It's cute theming to see, but sadly there isn't much here to make it interesting. Upon reaching the top, you'll find a door being blocked by a boulder, which will promptly explode and reveal the item Calamity hid. The script for the next episode. Don't tell Buster at the show stop getting new episodes by the time this game released over here. He looks really proud of himself. Before you can celebrate, the building in the sky begins to collapse. We now enter the real final section of the stage, requiring Buster to make a mad dash for the exit. This section will have us basically be dashing at all times to ensure that we escape. You can't afford to take a break since the ground is constantly lowering, and it lowers a bit more with each higher platform you reach. Because of this, it's very easy to die here. You'll only have a small amount of breathing room on a part of the stage that's off screen before it counts as a death plane. Be quick on your dashes and jumps and you'll be out of there in no time. Stage 5, save for the final section, is a pretty comfortable romp. Despite the danger of the pits, you're given more than enough platforms to stay in the air, and the overall lack of enemies outside the blimp segment makes this stage a more laid-back experience. The only real source of frustration you should face going through this level is during the dash sequence at the end. It's definitely daunting on your first attempts, and can be nerve-wracking even on later runs. I was wiping the sweat off my brow after clearing this, I can assure you of that. Our next and final stage takes us to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space! In this stage, Buster takes the role of a knight, fighting off the Empire and rescuing Princess Babs. Buster gets frustrated that he has to save Babs again, but brushes it off as everyone gets in position to begin the final stage, Space Opera. Space Opera is definitely the toughest stage in the game. You'll be traversing multiple unique sections of stage, taking on various enemies from bomb-throwing robots, people who work out at the library, and stormtroopers. Yes, that's actually what they're called. You'll have to use Buster's ability to their fullest extent in order to traverse the obstacles that lie in wait here. The first section is simple enough, with you hunting for a key to get us into his ship to allow us to blast a path forward. However, later sections can prove to be a strong challenge, including this auto-scrolling section where we need to hide behind certain barricades to dodge giant laser blasts. There's one particular section where you can never reach a barricade before a blast hits you, which absolutely feels unfair. You'll also face challenges involving dashing up a shaft while dodging barrels that'll knock you into the ground, as well as this section where you must dodge enemies bouncing back and forth across the screen. These aren't nearly as tough as the auto-scrolling section in my opinion. It also helps that there's a risk versus reward approach to the shaft section that can allow you to take a safer path if you don't want to go for some bonus stars. At the end of the stage, you'll enter a dark room and find yourself trapped as none other than Duck Vader descends to taunt you. He then equips himself with his massive paralyzer gun, and then the fight is on. The Duck Vader fight is easily the most involved boss fight you'll face in the game. You'll be doing quick jumps to dodge his paralyzer gun blasts and knocking him off to send him pinballing around the room. The only way for him to get hurt is for the gun blasts to hit him, so you'll have to knock him off the gun often to will him down. Those blasts can still hurt you when he's off the gun though, so you'll have to keep moving even when Duck Vader is spiraling out of control. After frying him with his own weapon enough times, Duck Vader, the walls, and the paralyzer gun will explode, with nothing but the ending cutscene waiting for you. Stage 6 is truly a test to the skills you've learned up to this point in the game, with no shortage of opportunities to take advantage of dashes and drop kicks to turn the tides in your favor. The level design can also be tricky as the enemies pile up and hazards come in waves. The auto-scrolling section can really be rough, especially due to the unavoidable damage you'll take. The final boss is also tricky to take down, with you needing to lock in completely in order to secure victory. Definitely a great way to close out the adventure. The explosions lead you to Princess Babs, who is more than thankful to have been rescued by Buster, calling him wonderful, strong, good-looking, really buttering him up. She then leans in for a kiss, which Buster isn't having at all from the look on his face. They're soon interrupted by Duck Vader. He then takes off his helmet to reveal that he was Plucky, who tells Buster and Babs that they should clean up and head home for the day. It's revealed that this was all an act, with Dizzy, Hampton, and Furball moving the background props around. Buster then announces that this isn't the end and calls for the credits to be rolled before jumping into the distance. However, we're not done yet, because at the end of the credits, we're presented with this screen. Oh boy, looks like it's one of those games. So back in this era, it was common for games with multiple difficulties to try to get players to try harder skill levels at the end of the game. Well, the game's given us a challenge, so we may as well get our money's worth and try to take it on, right? Before we dive into challenge difficulty though, I think we should get a little practice in. Let's do another lap of the game, but on children's difficulty. This is the game's easy mode, and the manual tells us that the only real difference between this and normal is that we get unlimited continues. So this should make it a comfortable romp that will get us a bit more familiar with the level design. Alright, we're wrapping up the first stage in record time, and wait, where's Hampton? Okay, I guess we're not doing the cuts. Wait, the level's over? Where's the Dizzy fight? Alright then, I guess we're just gonna go on to stage 2 now. There's Montana Max, he's stealing the gold, let's go after him and deal with those, and let's get— wait, again? Oh no. So, the manual may have omitted some details about children's mode. Along with unlimited continues and a highly generous timer for stage 4, every level in the game has been cut up to some degree. Stages 1 and 3 are mostly intact and are just missing the boss fights. Stage 2, as you saw, just has you playing the first half of the stage. Stage 5? You mean the space level, right? You're saying there's a level that takes place in the sky? Well, that stage is nowhere to be seen in children's mode. You just skip right over it. The final stage is like stage 2 in that it ends after the first half. The door that once led to the big ball now just leads to the credits. And it's super sudden and out of nowhere. I can imagine someone playing this game on children mode and nothing else, reaching that point and being very confused. And of course, the end of the credits mention recommending giving normal mode a shot because of course it does. Yeah, children mode is not exactly the most ideal way to play this game. My playthrough of this mode lasted a whopping 22 minutes, which is roughly a third of how long it took me to finish normal. To say you're missing out on a lot of the game by playing this mode is an understatement. Well, I guess we can count that as practice. Time to finally see what challenge mode is about. Challenge mode has you playing through all of the levels in their entirety. No extra surprise sections to be found here. The one major change you'll notice here is that at the start of each stage, you only get one heart. That's right. For each stage, you begin in a state where you die in one hit. Depending on the stage, the situation can be somewhat mitigated. In the first and third stage, for example, you can find a crystal carrot in the first section. Stages 2 and 5, however, are a bit stingier with health upgrades, requiring you to cover long sections without any room for error. Stage 5 doesn't even have a single crystal carrot, which means you'll have to play well to survive the blimp section. Stage 6, thankfully, has a crystal carrot that's easy to find in the first section, but getting to it will prove daunting as you dodge through enemies. It's also worth mentioning that the bonus games get some slight alterations based on the difficulty selected, so don't expect to earn lives as rapidly through them as you did on normal or children mode. Boss fights are also a bit tougher, with some taking extra punishment before going down. The final boss has a trick up its sleeve in challenge mode where they'll get right back on the paralyzer gun after knocking him off the first time, requiring you to knock them off twice in a row in order to deal some damage. After enough perseverance, however, you will take down Darth Vader one final time, becoming a true loose buster. Or something. The credits scene gets some extra flair as a way of rewarding you for your hard work, as you'll see scenes of various characters hanging out instead of just staring blankly into a void with names passing over it. And now we see what the game has to say about us getting this far. How will it congratulate us for being the trials that come with challenge mode? Well, it doesn't. You just stare at Buster and Babs while it just says the end in the corner. Wow, $50 of 1993 money well spent. Okay, we went over every stage and difficulty and the video's not over. Where are we yapping about now? Well, before closing out, I want to go over a few miscellaneous things that are worth noting. First, let's check out that password menu. I remember having no clue what to do about this menu as a kid. Entering random combinations did nothing, and unlike other games, you didn't get passwords at the end of each stage. So what are we doing with this menu? Well, there's a secret password that you can enter to let us access a menu that lets us play all the bonus games, which is neat. Other than that, there are passwords for continuing your game. How do you get them, you ask? Well, you get a password when you choose End on the Game Over screen. Sounds simple enough. Here's the funny part though. You only get passwords in children mode. The easiest mode in the game, the mode that can be beaten in the time it takes to cook chicken in an air fryer, that mode. This, of course, bites. The kicker is that in the Japanese version of the game, you could get passwords for normal mode, which means that this was a change made specifically to make the US version harder, which was sadly the style at the time for a good amount of games from overseas. Thankfully, thanks to ROM hackers Bank and RetroProf, we have a patch that re-enables the passwords for all the difficulty modes, allowing for a more relaxed playthrough that actually incentivizes looking at the password screen. While on the topic of patches, there's one more I'd like to bring up. So in the options menu, you can tweak the controls to your liking. However, there's a way to tweak the controls that will cause the game to soft lock. By changing the action that the R button is bound to, the automated running section near the end of stage 2 will become impossible to clear, as the computer is hitting the R button to try to dash. You'll sit there and watch as Buster dies over and over again, being powerless to stop it. Thankfully, King Mike has a patch to fix this, allowing you to set the R button to whatever you want it to be without worry of soft locks. Lastly, I want to talk a bit about the people who worked on this game. This is something I'd like to do when possible, where I highlight some of the dev team members of a game and mention projects that they were a part of before and after the game we're currently talking about. I may not talk about every developer for each game, but that doesn't mean that the ones that I didn't bring up had meaningless contributions. Game development in all departments is hard work, and everything a person contributes to the development of a game, no matter how little, is valuable, as they allow for the game in question to be what it is today. I will always be thankful for the effort of game developers to bring titles to life in ways I could never anticipate, which includes the developers of this game. This game had 6 planners, with Koji Horie's name sticking out to me. They were also one of the graphic designers for this game, and would later work on the GBA and DS Castlevania games. being a map designer for some of these titles. There's also a few names to note out of the 7 programmers this game had. Shigeharu Umezaki had previously worked on Contra as both a programmer and director. He is currently the chairman of the board of directors at Goodfeel, being a senior producer on games like Wario Land Shake It, Kirby's Epic Yarn, and Yoshi's Woolly World. They're also in the special thanks for the game Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Turtles in Time. They're also not the only person who's on the credits for both that game and Buster Bust Loose. Yasuo Okuda and Eiji Nakagawa were programmers on both of these titles. Of the 6 graphic and animation designers for Tiny Toon Adventures, 2 of them also worked on Turtles in Time: Kumiko Ogawa and Masasugu Hashimoto. Keita Kawaminami is another graphic and animation designer on Buster Bust Loose. Like Umezaki, they would also work at Goodfeel on various projects, being the assistant director on Kirby's Epic Yarn, one of the producers of Yoshi's Woolly World, and also a localization director of Princess Peach Showtime. Now let's move on to the 2 sound and music producers for this game, Kazuhiko Uehara and Yuki Morimoto. Kazuhiko Uehara had previously done sound design work for, say it with me now, Turtles in Time. They also did audio conversions for the MSX and PC-88 versions of Hideo Kojima's Snatcher. Yuki Morimoto was on the sound team for Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse and was a sound editor for the SNES version of Gradius 3, so they helped to bring many banger tunes to gamers before working on this title. Next, we have our package designer, Hiromi Sumida. While the package design for the US version of the game is a little lacking, as we discussed way earlier, the Japanese box is pretty lively, featuring a good amount of the cast from the show. I kinda wished we got this packaging over here, to be honest. They were also a visual designer for the game I shouldn't have to mention the name of at this point, just look at the box art on screen. The next one comes a little out of left field. We get shown that the game was produced by Team the Okutani Project. This is most likely just the name of the development team as a whole for this project, but the name itself kinda perplexes me. The word Okutani does not have an English meaning, and any attempts to look up the Okutani Project either led me information about this game or about Hiroshi Okutani, who is a Japanese artist. Maybe the name is in reference to him and his works? Honestly, your guess is as good as mine. Either way, it seems that this team only existed for this game, which is understandable, as I'm sure teams were shifting around a lot at Konami, as they were working on many different titles during this time. Well, I'm glad this team got to exist to bring Buster Bust Loose to the world, because it certainly found a way to keep a grip on me after all these years. Also, the game thanks you in the special thanks section, which I always like seeing in games. If you're working on a game right now and somehow found this video, please thank the player in the credits. It makes me feel all happy and sad when I see it. Overall, I enjoyed my time with Tiny Toon Adventures Buster Bust Loose. While the difficulty spikes can be jarring for newcomers, this game is forgiving enough to make these mountains eventually become anthills with enough practice. What the game makes up for in terms of content comes in the form of varied stage designs, tight mechanics, great music, and high replayability. I wouldn't call this game a must-own for the average retro gamer, but you can't go wrong with a casual playthrough of this game. If you find it in the wild, give it a shot. You won't regret it. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, make sure to leave a like. Subscribe for more cool videos from me, and maybe hit that bell and ensure you don't miss a thing. Leave a comment below if you want to suggest another game for me to cover, or if you want to say something else. Your pick. You can also find me on BlueSky, where I'll occasionally post updates about videos as well as other miscellaneous things. I'm also on Backloggd, where I've written hundreds of reviews, as well as plenty of normal and not so normal lists, so check those out too. That's it from me today. Yours locally, signing out.